So this is going to be a different video than a lot of the ones I've made for you guys before, and of course Ellie's choosing to chase her own tail right as I start recording. What are you doing? You goofbag. Jeez. What's up, folks, and welcome to Retro Ramble. A little bit of a different background today. Yes, indeed. Welcome to my kitchen. And this video is going to be quite a bit different than the ones I usually do, but I thought you guys might find this a little bit interesting. Sorry, I don't have my good mic here, and I don't have a fancy camera like some of the bigger YouTubers, but I've got a Pixel 6, so, you know, it should probably do a decent enough job. But yeah, my good lifelong friend and I got the opportunity to go down to VCF Midwest this past weekend. We drove 12 hours from Ottawa to Chicago and 16 hours back, thanks Toronto traffic. And it was the first one of these I'd ever gotten to go to, and man, what a fantastic experience. By the time this goes up, there should be a Medium post up that I wrote detailing my experiences a little bit more. That'll be in the description down below, so you can check that out. But what I wanted to do today is show you the haul of the stuff I got there. I got a bunch of things I wasn't planning to, and a couple of the things I was really hoping to get actually weren't there, which was kind of interesting. Didn't spend as much money as I planned, didn't spend nothing either, but I got some really neat stuff that I thought I'd show off here. If you haven't had the opportunity to go to a vintage computer fest and you're at all into this stuff, I highly recommend it. The one in Chicago is kind of the big one, but there's several more throughout the US, and they're all free, completely free. You can just show up and go in and look around. They take donations, they sell t-shirts and stuff, but otherwise it's a free experience, and I really, really suggest that. We had a fantastic time. Even if we didn't get to see some other parts of Chicago afterwards, it was 100% worth the trip just for the show alone. I really enjoyed it, and I hope to do it a lot more. But enough rambling about that. You can check the Medium post if you want to know more, and let us get to the haul. All right, I've got my Gamers Nexus mouse mat fresh out the wash, all nice and clean. Steve, email me and I'll tell you where you can send the check for the free promotion there. Yeah, I think I'll just sort of go through this stuff in no particular order here and show you what I got, because it's quite the hodgepodge of things. And we'll start with a little bit of a banger right here. So anybody who follows the fantastic YouTube channel, The 8-Bit Guy, which you should be if you're not, knows about Attack of the PETSCII Robots. This is a game that David developed himself, one of several he's developed actually, and this game got ported to just about everything with a screen. He welcomed third-party community members to come in and port the game around to other systems, and he's selling various different versions of it. He recently announced that he's going to stop doing physical stuff like this because it was just taking up way too much of his time and taking it away from his channel. So I wanted to grab a boxed copy of it here, and this is one of the more expensive ones. This one was $100, which you might think is kind of crazy, but that's because if you take a look here, it's got every single Commodore platform version on it, including a native C128 version. There aren't a lot of games native for the C128. It even has a Commodore Plus 4 version, a version that supports RAM expansions, the whole bit. And he includes it on both 5¼ and 3.5-inch discs. You get this cool little keychain with it. You know, you get the manuals, you get all of this other stuff. It's a lot of value for money. You could buy other versions on their own for less money. I thought about picking up a Super Nintendo one, but I didn't. I kind of wish I did now. But these are the versions I really wanted. So yeah, everything from the Commodore PET all the way up to the Amiga is on here. And of course, because he was there, I got David to sign it for me. Thank you, sir. He was clearly, he goes to a lot of these shows, and it was really cool to talk to him. He was clearly very busy, and I think a bit tired when I went up to talk to him, so I didn't get to chat as much as I wanted, but it was a really cool experience, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you, David. Keep up the good work, man. And the next one here, so I actually already have a copy of this downstairs, but I wanted to get another one. And you may think, why the heck would you want this thing? So yeah, this is called the Newsroom from Springboard Software. And the reason I got this is because of sentimental value. I had this for my Atari 8-bit growing up, and I used it all the time. I don't know why, I just found it really fun to make stuff with this. And I actually did make a short-lived school newspaper for DeRoy Kennedy Public School in my later years going there. So yeah, this is the Commodore 64 version. The one I have downstairs is a similar thing. They all came in these nice plastic shells, which is really cool. All the Springboard stuff did. This one is more complete than my copy. It's got the the full manual. It's got the registration card. They would actually send you a free backup disc if you emailed them about it, which I thought was kind of neat. And my copy here, well, somebody made a backup of the disc, which is cool, and it also includes a clip art disc, which mine is missing, so that's neat. This was actually pretty invaluable if you were using it. It didn't come with a ton of art in the box, but I'll probably do a video on this product at some point because it's just something that was really formative in my youth, and it was really well designed and really easy to work with, and I quite enjoyed it. I was glad I was able to find another copy there. The vendor actually had two, but I didn't bother getting the other one of that. And here's another sort of random PC pickup that I got here. So, or not PC, this is, oh yeah, it is PC, sorry. So yeah, this is Obliterator, which was an early Psygnosis game that was actually published by Virgin Games back when they were a thing. I've heard of this, and I thought it was good things. I couldn't rightly remember at the time, but the vendor sold this to me for, I think it was $5 or something. It wasn't very much, and it's in reasonably good shape. So I went, yeah, you know what? I'll grab this and see what it's all about here. So this is pretty cool. It is complete. It's a simple package. I mean, like, the labels in this didn't get very, they didn't get the AAA treatment necessarily here, but it is a complete package. I want to say these Virgin Melbourne House releases, some of them, or at least releases like this, were a little bit more value-based, if you will. So you didn't get all the bells and whistles, but you paid less for the game. So this is cool. Once I get a DOS computer assembled, this will be fun to mess around with. I hope the discs are still good. You can never really tell these days, but we'll see here. All right, let's switch gears a little bit to some book-related stuff. So this has actually been on my list for a while to pick up. This is really for hardcore retro nerds only, to be honest with you. But if you're big into your Commodore history, you're familiar with Bill Hurd. Bill Hurd was one of the original Commodore engineers. He was involved in all of these computers here, including, that's the one that I have down in the basement right there waiting to be restored. That is a Commodore 128D. And he's a really charismatic guy. He goes to all the conventions. He loves to tell stories. He's super approachable, super nice, and really cool dude. And this is his story where he tells a lot of his stories about his time at Commodore. And I wanted to pick this up, but I hadn't gotten around to it yet. But there was a vendor selling them there, and he was like, "Hey, Bill's here this weekend. I'm going to get him to come by, and sign these if you're interested." And we were like, "Abso-friggin-lutely." So, yeah, he did come by. So Bill and his co-author, Margaret Morabito, both signed it. Really, really cool. Looking forward to digging into this. I may buy it again in ebook form just to make it a little easier to read, for me to read, but we'll see. And then also that same lady, Margaret Morabito, or I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, wrote this interesting thing. This is a niche within a niche, but yeah, the Commodore 128 Handbook, the 2019 Survival Edition, also got them both to sign it, which was really cool. And yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff in this, specifically for the Commodore 128. Now, if you're a retro gamer, you're really more into the Commodore 64 if you're into the Commodore. The 128 actually was much more business and productivity focused, and it had very few games that came out for it. But the reason I went with that instead of a C64 for my retro space is because I had access to a 128D. A 128 is fully backwards compatible with a C64. And I just went, well, you know what? Why not have the best of all worlds, you know? And that's proven to be a bit of a journey, as I'll get into more later. But this talks about the whole thing, about the hardware, about the software that was available for it at the time, the accessories you could get. You know, it's a treasure trove of information for people who are really into the 128 in general. And as an enthusiast, I just thought this would be a neat thing to keep around. Keep this on the desk beside it when I get the retro space built, you know? I thought that'd be kind of neat. Now here is something, speaking of nerdy, this is something I've been meaning to do a video on for a long time. So they have a free section at VCF Midwest, and it's literally that. People put stuff there, you can come and get it, and anything that's left over at the end of the show gets chucked. And I came across these when I was looking in their box, and I was just like, why the hell not? So QEMM was a memory management tool for DOS. If you were a DOS gamer, you basically had to have this, because this was the thing where you know, if you were an artisanal boot disk maker like myself, you use this tool in order to really squeeze every byte of memory out of your DOS computer to make the games that you had run as best as you could. And yeah, just a set of reference guides were sitting in here. I don't actually know what version this is for. This says 1985 to 1994, so this is not the latest version of QEMM, but it's close. And this is back when manuals were manuals, man. You bought a piece of software and it just came with everything you could possibly want to know and then some. So, do I have a use for these? No, but this was just so cool, and I mean, free's free, you know? So I grabbed those, and I just thought that would be a really cool thing to have. If you, when you went into VCF Midwest, you could not only buy t-shirts to help support the show, of which I bought 2. They're in the wash right now, but they sold these as well. Just stickers for the show, modeled after the old Digital Equipment Corporation branding. Really like this. I thought this was cool. Don't know where I'm going to put this yet. My home server downstairs is kind of my sticker machine. That's where I kind of put all this, but I feel like I could find somewhere better to put this. I should have bought more than one, honestly. I don't know why I didn't do that. But yeah, very cool little thing. The shirts are really high quality too. I'm a big fan of them. They did a really great job with that. So, and actually, I guess I should have started off with this, but oh well. So you also got these for free when you went in. I wrote my name with my horrible handwriting there, and I guess it got wet or something because one of the letters came off. But yeah, these are really nicely done plastic ID cards, and you could write your name in them, and these were, again, completely free. You didn't have to have one to get into the show, but when you walked in across from the t-shirt table, they just had a bunch of these, and it was first come, first serve. And really nice. These guys put so much effort into this show for how little they charge for it. And little they charge. They don't charge anything for it. And it's really nice to see the effort that they put in. This is a show that is truly run by enthusiasts out of passion, and I love to see it. I really, really do. All right, so let's change gears a little bit and get into some hardware. So this really surprised me. So there were a number of different joysticks available for the Commodore and Atari 8-bit computers. These machines only supported a single button, but there were a lot of different configurations of joysticks available. You know, the Wiko Commander is one that a lot of people remember really fondly. I saw a lot of those at various different booths and kiosks, but none of them were for sale, which kind of bummed me out. But this was actually cool. In addition to making a lot of software, Epyx actually tried their hand at hardware and peripherals on occasion. And this was one of them. This joystick looks a little weird, but it's actually remarkably comfortable. And one of these vendors, who I bought several things from that we'll still get to here, had several of these new old stock in box, and he was only selling them for 20 bucks, which is pretty darn reasonable. And yeah, this joystick is actually really nice. It's quite ergonomic. It's got some real nice... Oh, that's sweet. Got some really nice mechanical switches in it. You know, you hold it like this, you can use it like this, and your buttons on the side here. It's actually really comfortable and really well built. I'm kind of shocked. He was telling me, he's like, yeah, you're probably not going to find these cheaper anywhere else. And I'm like, you know what? No, because I went and looked on eBay at the time while standing there, and yeah, this was a great deal. So this is going to be great. It works with anything that supports this connector, so you could use it with an Atari 2600, an Atari 8-bit PC, a Commodore, an Amiga, all kinds of things. So yeah, this was a great find. I'm really happy to get that. I'm looking forward to using it, especially since it's new old stock. Okay, and on the hardware front as well, so here's an interesting one. A lot of you 90s people are going to look at this and be nodding your head when you see it. Oh yeah. So this is an Iomega Zip Drive. For those of you who are not familiar, Iomega was a company that they flew very brightly for a while and then faded out almost as quickly. But back in the era when you principally used floppy disks with your computer, the amazing thing about these were that you could buy disks for these, which are these guys here, that were 100 megabytes a pop. And these zip drives could connect to your computer either via your parallel port where your printer went or via SCSI. This is the parallel version. A lot slower, but yeah, and these were both famous and infamous because the discs would eventually tend to wear out on these to where you'd get what was called the click of death. And they faded very quickly as mass storage like flash drives and things like that became a lot cheaper. So why did I buy this? Well, this one I got for a couple of different reasons. A, the guy tested it. It's fully functional. It does include the power adapter. I don't have it here, but it does include it, and the parallel cable. It's fully functional. He was actually selling brand new sealed discs for it for pretty cheap, all things considered. To be honest, I don't know if I'll ever actually use this, but the reason I bought it is because back in high school, I edited the yearbook one year along with several friends, and we did all of it through one of these things. The school lent us one of their brand new digital Pentium 75 systems at the time, to which we got PageMaker and Photoshop 3, I believe it was, to do the work on. And we convinced them to buy us one of these so that we could easily store the large files that generated to take them up to do prints on the laser printer in the lab. And it's just the memories of this. This doesn't have a lot of practical use now. Any DOS computer I build for the retro space is probably going to use an SD card storage solution because it's just easier and way faster. This will probably just sit on a shelf, honestly, but I paid, I think, 20 bucks for the drive and the discs combined, and it fully works. So, I mean, that's really cool. And I'm looking forward to that. Just looking at that purple shell just brings back some really fond memories for me, you know, and that's what a lot of this stuff is about, obviously. Now, here's an interesting thing. So I bought myself a new 3.5-inch floppy drive there, you know, pretty wholly unremarkable. There's really not much to this. It's a floppy drive, you know what these are. And it's good to have one of these around, but you know what's really strange now? And I didn't know this. These drives, 3.5-inch drives, are plentiful. They're there as far as the eye can see and sold for peanuts. You cannot, for the life of you, find a 5.25-inch floppy drive anymore. There were billions of these things back in the day, and I don't know why they'd be so in demand now, but you can't find one. And I was hoping to come away from the show with one because I'm looking to do an archival project that requires one. And I couldn't find one. I looked everywhere, and I couldn't get any. And it looks like if I want one, I'm probably going to have to buy like an untested unit off eBay for 60 bucks. I don't get it. It makes no sense to me at all. But this guy's brand new. Actually came out in the late 2000s, it looks like, because it has support for Vista, which is pretty funny. But yeah, 15 bucks, brand new in box. I mean, why not, right? I figured I could get some use out of that thing. And then here's another little bit of a hardware oddity, but kind of a cool one. The guy who sold me those books that I showed before actually runs a vendor called 8-Bit Classics, and they sell a whole bunch of reproduction like power adapters and things like that for old computers. A lot of the old power adapters today either are worn out and don't work anymore, or in the case of the OG Commodore 64 ones, have a tendency to blow up, and you do not want to use those anymore. And one of the machines that I am hoping to eventually get that I grew up with for the retro space is an Atari 130XE. Also couldn't find one of those for sale at the show. Really thought I would. Nope, there's a couple on demo, but they weren't for sale. But he has these, which is just a wall wart that you can plug in that has the appropriate connector. He had them in different amperages. This is a 2.4 amp model, which is good if you're going to be using some additional hardware stuff like a FujiNet, which I have, and things like that. You need the extra amperage in order to drive all that stuff without additional power adapters. 20 bucks, brand friggin' new. He had a bunch of Commodore ones there too. He had full-on brick power supply replacements for 64s and 128s there. They were a little expensive, but I'm not surprised. This was a great deal, so I was really happy to get my hands on that as well. And, okay, let's go into sort of a hardware-software combo now, I guess. Let me see if I can find all of these things here. Well, we'll start with this one. So this is just a simple Jumpman Junior cartridge for the Commodore 64. It's OG, it's not new old stock. Jumpman was a rather famous sort of single screen action platformer thing. Got really, really hard. You know, Epyx made a lot of really killer stuff in the 8-bit era. So that's all this is. It was really, really cheap. I think it was like, it might have even been less than $5, I don't know. And I figured, it's good to have around, you know, for this... good to have around when I get that machine built, just to have a little thing like that there. Ah, yes, here we go. Okay. Now, these came from the same guy, and these are fascinating. So let me take these out of the bag, or at least one of them, and I'm going to show you these. So what these are brand new cartridges for Commodore computers that contain the entire catalog of the companies that are listed on the labels. And they have a custom menu in them that allows you to access them all. And they have these really nice, I'm blanking on the word, but yeah, these really nice like hard plastic shells that are colored really, really good. As you can see, they were $30 each, and they have nice little reset buttons on them, and you just put these in to your Commodore 64 or 128, turn it on, and you get a menu where you can choose from one of any of the games these companies made. And those of you who are into the 8-bit era know that First Star Software, Datasoft, and Epyx were pretty prolific companies. First Star made all the Boulder Dash series, the Spy vs. Spy games, among a lot of other things. Datasoft was most famous for arcade conversions, but they also did stuff like Bruce Lee, which was really, really good. And Epyx, I mean, you saw the Jumpman game there. They also did all of the various games series, summer games, winter games, California games, things like that. These guys had monstrously good catalogs. First Star Software, their catalog was bought a little while ago by United Games Entertainment, and somebody still owns the Epyx IPs too. So I'm not going to say these are, strictly speaking, legal. I'm sure these are not licensed, but that's the vendor's problem, right? So, but there is a ton of awesome gamage in here, and just to be able to have it all in one place with no load times because it's a cartridge and the nice custom front end and stuff. The vendor was super chill. He was like, if you want to take one of these and walk over to one of the booths with a Commodore at it just to plug it in and see how it works and stuff, he's like, yeah, it's cool, you can bring it back, whatever, after. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, but the vendors at this show were so chill because everyone was so chill. There were people there who would walk away from their booths for like an hour to get lunch with very expensive hardware and stuff for sale just sitting on the table. And nobody stole anything. It was just, everybody was just cool. Sometimes people would take something they wanted to buy and they just leave the cash on the table with a sticky note that said, "This is for this." It's just so cool considering how crowded it was. But yeah, I'm really excited to try these out in my 128. And on that note, I have found the white whale of my white whale. Now, you may be looking at this and going, the hell are you talking about, man? So like I said, I have a Commodore 128D downstairs. Now, the Commodore 128 was a standalone computer it was like the keyboard on its own, right? And then you hooked all your various things into it. The 128D was a system that included a disk drive in the box. It was like an all-in-one almost, and a separate keyboard. The 128D didn't sell very well. The keyboards are practically unobtainium. And if you can find one, they're usually obscenely expensive, and they rarely come without the computer. So I got the computer, the keyboard disappeared. I spent years trying to find one that wasn't an abhorrent ripoff. And I finally did, but it came with a broken H key. The standoff on the keyboard is okay, but the key itself was broken. Whoops, there goes the spring. The little bit of this was broken off. And finding the individual keys is even more unobtainium. Well, Robin from Thunder Bay, who runs the fantastic channel 8-Bit Show and Tell that I also recommend you go drop a sub on, link in the description. I've been a patron of his for a long time, and I decided to send him a note and just go, hey man, I know you have a bunch of these. Do you happen to have a keyboard that either I could buy from you in total, or maybe one that you have just for parts that you could give me the H key of? And he was like, as it turns out, yes. He said, I have a 128D keyboard that's missing its shift key. And I'm like, great, what do you want for the H key? He's like, I'll just pull it off and bring it down and give it to you. Robin is like the nicest dude in the universe, for real. Such a good guy, and it has taken me so long to get one of these, and I'm so happy I have it. Thank you, Robin. You're awesome, man. This will go to good use. I've got the stuff needed to start retrobriting, and I'm hoping to retrobrite that whole machine and repaint the case and just make it look really, really nice, and I can't wait to do that. And I finally can, thanks to you, my dude. So you are way cool, and I appreciate you. So, speaking of the Commodore 128, I found these. I've never seen these before in my life. These apparently came with most of them, but because most of the Commodores I had experience with as a kid were in schools, you never got to see these. But yeah, these are OG system discs. So You got one that was just a demo disc and a test disc for the floppy drive, and there was, this is another one here, variant of that has the C128 DOS shell on it. The tutorial disc, label's a little worn on this one, but it's still got that. And the actual CPM disc. Most people don't know that the Commodore 128 could not only run C64 and C128 BASIC, it could actually run CPM. I've never tried that in my life. I was going to just find a disk image and give it a try. It looks like this one's never been used because it's still got the stop seal on it, which is way cool. So, you know, do these work or not? I don't know. Floppy disks, you know, they don't last forever, but there's no mold on these. They honestly look to be in near perfect shape. And I think the guy sold this to me for like $5 or something. So I was like, absolutely. Again, another little thing to go with the set to try to make it complete. So I'm looking forward to trying those out as well. My 128D does work. It just needs some cosmetic restoration. So, and then these are not too interesting, but something I feel that I could use later on. I bought these two CD drives there for when I build my God tier DOS system. These are LG drives. I used to have one of these back in the day. This is a 32X. I think this one might be similar speed. I think this might be a 48X actually, but there's really nothing special about these. They're just CD-ROMs, but I wanted a black one and a white one depending on the color design I choose to go with the case. These were $5 each in a bin with like 30 other ones. And the guy tested them out for me. He plugged them into a power supply. We made sure they powered up and that the trays came out. LG is not what it used to be in terms of quality. I can rant your ear off about that. Ask me about my monitors sometime. But this was back in the era where if it had LG, you knew it was bulletproof. And yeah, these are just nice to have. And the price was right. So I figured, you know, what the hell. So, all right, we're coming down to it a little bit here, but we're going to dive back into some software right now. And this is another set of games I got, and some of these I'm super excited for. So this is the sequel to Test Drive. It's called the Duel. This is a version for IBM computers. Mantris and I loved the Test Drive series growing up, all of them. One day I would love to be able to get a full complete set of at least the older Test Drive games, Test Drive 1, 2, and 3. I played so much 3, oh my god. Yeah, designed by Distinctive Software, which is now known as EA Canada, where a whole bunch of different games are produced, including the NHL series. Yeah, so this is the sequel. This one was very good. I mean, the whole early Test Drive series was actually super cool, and each one was a major advancement over the one that came before it, which was really neat. So this one, yeah, it came complete. You know, it's got the discs here. This is the PC version. The DOS version of this, I personally preferred this series on the Commodores, but the DOS version was all right, you know. And I don't know what this is. Instructions for instructions for hard disk installation, and it's actually on track paper. I doubt this came in the box. Yeah, this was somebody printed this out from a README file to tell you how to install the game to your hard drive. How freaking cool is that? I love little artifacts like that. I think that's really great. So that's a game that I really enjoyed, and I'm looking forward to that. But these, oh boy, these. So early EA. Before they became the soulless, you know, loot box peddling garbage fire they are now. When EA was originally started by Trip Hawkins, he wanted to counter the trend of big game developers and publishers not crediting the actual people who worked and made their games. And he really wanted to treat game makers like artists. That's why the company was called Electronic Arts. So all their games came out in these really cool things that look like album covers. You know, back in the days, you know, you get the big plastic record there with the grooves, and you put the needle on it. Get the hell off my lawn. You kids don't understand what dynamic range is anymore. And so he purposely packaged them like this, and he credited the designers very prominently on all the media and the packaging. And you can see right here, they have like this band, this band shot, all of these cool things. And these things are actually relatively hard to find now, particularly in good shape. There were multiple vendors here who had these who were selling them for next to nothing. I couldn't believe it. But yeah, this is Racing Destruction Set, which was an early version. The game I prefer of this sort of design your own track type thing is Stunts, which I've been trying hard to find a boxed copy of, but this was a predecessor to that. And yeah, $5. Crazy. I couldn't believe how cheap this was. I was like, do you know what you have? I was like, dude. So I jumped on that one, and I got a few of these. So we also got this one, the Commodore version of the Bard's Tale. This one's a little worn, but it's not bad. It feels like at one point it might have gotten a little bit wet, actually, just because of the way it goes. But yeah, Bard's Tale, one of the OG RPGs, and I mean, look at this friggin' like Venice Beach muscle guy who made this. Like, how cool is this? This is one of the earliest titles from Interplay. Look at that old Interplay logo. Boy, it doesn't look like that anymore, do it? Is that 80s or is that 80s? But Interplay was originally, before they became a publisher, they started out as a developer, and they had most of their stuff put out by Electronic Arts. So you've got the original Bard's Tale here with the boot disc, and it looks like somebody made a backup of this too that I didn't know about, and the dungeon disc, which was additional content. And again, really gorgeous artwork, real Rockstar treatment the devs were given. And Bard's Tale, I mean, games like this are a little hard to go back to these days because they are very rudimentary, and if you've played any kind of modern RPG, you're going to find these a little frustrating, but an absolute classic and a wonderful packaging of that. And then I got 2 copies of this. Y'all know I'm a pinhead. I got a Roller Games machine in the basement. And this was an amazing game and it's the only one I've ever seen of its kind, actually. So this was Bill Budge's Pinball Construction Set, and it's exactly what it says on the tin. You make your own pinball machines with it out of parts, basically. How cool is this? I can't believe nobody's made a game like this. There's video pinball is having a bit of a renaissance on the PC these days, but nobody's made a game where you can design your own pinball. Maybe I should try to learn how to make games again and see if I could pull that off, because it's really cool. And I mean, look at this, Old EA. This is their mission statement here. We are an association of electronic artists who share a common goal. We want to fulfill the potential of personal computing. That's a tall order, but with enough imagination and enthusiasm, we think there's a good chance for success. Our products, like this program, are evidence of our intent. Yeah. That ain't the EA we know now, is it? But look at this, and look at this art. It's the 80s-est 80s that ever 80s, and I love it. It's so good. This feels like if someone this feels like someone predicted synthwave, you know what I mean, before it happened. And this was a really cool package that I'm really looking forward to cracking into again at some point. Again, somebody made a backup of it. But I've got the OG disc here. This is the Commodore version, of course. I actually bought 2 copies of this because I found this version that, well, has no disc in it before I found the other one. But this was also only $5, so having a second copy of the art I think is cool. One day I'll probably find an OG disc to put in it, but yeah, I love these. I love the way these look. You could literally fold these open and put them on your wall if you wanted, right? I mean, look at this. Look at this. It's just... oh, it's incredible. And it was a really cool game at the time as well. I'll probably do a video on this someday. Something that I really think should get another chance at its due. So, and yeah, we're coming down to the end here, but here's the last thing. And these are things that you guys could easily buy yourselves now. They had this company there called 2D Kits. It's actually a non-profit, and they had an event there called Build-A-Blinkie. And they're literally kits that you can buy that teach you how to solder. I've barely soldered anything in my life, and I'm terrible at it. And given that I want to get into restoring old computers, you kind of should probably learn how to do that, right? So they had soldering stations set up there, and you could buy the kits and build them yourself right on the spot. And they had experts there, the nicest bunch of dudes, man. Oh my God, they were so cool. That you could just sit there and they would walk you through, they would help you out, they would leave you, they wanted you to do it yourself, so they would leave you to it, but if you ran into problems, they would help you out, and they just chat you up as you went. We did this right at the end of the show as everything was getting packed up, and we had a great time. I built this little set of LED earrings, actually, for my girlfriend, that I'm going to give her soon. I did a terrible job on the soldering, but they work, they totally work. Here, let's see if I can, check it out. They totally work. I did that. Yeah, I did. Oh, it's awesome. So I got her these, and then I bought a couple of other kits that they have. They have tons of them, of all different skill levels. Mantras bought a few as well, including a couple of the expert kits, because he actually has done some soldering, so he kind of knows what he's doing. He did a more advanced kit while I did those earrings and blew through it in the time it took me to do one of them, but it was really cool. This is a little constellation kit that you can have. There's actually 2 of these that I bought. So these have LEDs that you put in them that flash in the various parts of the constellation. And this is like an LCD grid kind of one. This one's a little more involved because there's a bunch of sockets you have to put down and there's chips you're involved with. But this is like electronics geek Lego, this stuff. The prices are all very reasonable. They run workshops all over the US. I hope they come to Canada someday. That would be really cool. But they run workshops all over the place. You can buy these. Their workshops are geared towards kids, but if you've never soldered before, this is a great way to start learning. And you buy one of these in like a Pine Sol starter soldering iron or something like that, you can get into this for really cheap. And if you want to start learning how to work with electronics, this is a great place to start. I was really impressed with this. So was Mantras. We both walked away really, really happy with it, and we were happy to give them some money. And these will probably not be the only things I buy from them. I'd actually like to buy their more advanced kits as things start going up there. And then, yeah, the only other thing I bought, which I won't be able to fit on camera, but it doesn't really matter, is I can finally start retrobriting. I wanted to use the new vapor method for retrobriting, where you don't actually have any of your plastics get immersed in the liquid, which can prevent marbling. But to do that, you need a fairly large bin that's airtight. And, well, I found one. I have spent forever, like we're talking months, trying to find a bin this size in Canada that's also airtight, and they don't exist in this country. But it turns out, you crazy Americans, you have a whole chain called the Container Store. It's literally a giant ass store that sells nothing but storage products. Like, but yeah, I went and found this bin down there, and it clamps together, and it's airtight. These are actually certified as air and water tight. This is exactly what you need to do the Retrobrite vapor method. So I bought a couple of these little kitchen rack things as well. And basically all you do is you put a bunch of hydrogen peroxide actually in the lid of the container. You put your products on here. You put the container onto the lid upside down, and you leave it out in the sun, and the vapors actually brighten up the plastics without touching it. And that can prevent weird marbling effects that can happen sometimes because there's no contact. So I'm going to try that this weekend. I'm not going to do it to my 128D right away. I have an old Super Nintendo that a former neighbor gave me, and I'm going to try it with that first. But this method is really promising. A lot of people are considering this the gold standard now. It takes longer. I might have to leave the product out in the sun for a couple of days, but that's well worth it for me. And if it works well, I'll probably buy a high-intensity UV light so that I can do these in the basement during the wintertime, because we're coming into the fall here in Canada, so them hot summer days are going to be gone soon. But yeah, I'm really excited to get started in that. And yeah, got myself a pretty sick haul, if I have to say. I'm very pleased with this. I took $1,000 USD out before we went down there because I'm that guy. And I spent barely half of it. And that included some other things that weren't even related to the show. Like some stuff at a museum we went to and other things like that. So I am very pleased with this. What they say is true. If you go to VCF Midwest with the intention to buy things, you will find things at much more reasonable prices than you get. Hey, Dougie. There's Ellie. Hi, babe. Hey, boo-boo. How you doing? I picked her up from the border yesterday, and she's still very tired after a week of running around with her play buddies. So... but yeah, if you want to buy stuff at VCF, you will pay much better prices than you will on eBay, because these are being sold by enthusiasts who know they're going to be selling to other enthusiasts and who don't want to rip anybody off. And I really, really appreciate that. I bought 2 t-shirts from the show. I didn't get anything at their fundraising auction, but I'm going to kick them a fairly large donation because I think they deserve it. They really, really do. And it's a great show. I really highly recommend going down there. Like I said, a couple of my white whales I was hoping to get down there I didn't get, including a couple of surprising things. Like I said, the 5¼ inch floppy drive. Really strange how the market's changing that way. But, you know, it is what it is, and I'll get there one day. So hope you guys enjoyed this. If you like what you saw here, please do all the normal YouTube things. Those really do help the channel out a great deal. Leave a comment down below. You know, tell me, did you go to the show? What did you think of it? You know, what did you find there? I'd love to know what hauls and stuff that you got. You know, what are some of your big retro finds? What are some of your white whales that you're looking to get? Because I would love to hear about that stuff. And trust me, it's going to take a while to get my retro space idea put together, but all of this stuff is going to get used in various different capacities, and I can't wait for that. So, and yeah, check the description down below for the channels that I mentioned in this, as well as the Medium post I'm planning to write on my experiences at the show if you want to learn some more about it. So, thanks again, everybody, and I will talk to you in the next video. You guys have yourselves a good one. Take her easy.